Tone is in your gear, skill is in your fingers, and it takes a skilled hand to draw tone out of your gear, to reveal the tone of your gear, if you will. There are two ways to interpret tone is in your fingers. One is that in order to get the rig to sound good, you need to be a good player. That's the way I've always interpreted it, and I know a lot of other people interpret it that way too. The other way that people commonly interpret it is that you're going to sound like you no matter what. So don't worry so much about your gear, worry about your playing, because you're always going to sound like you. Okay, those are two ways to interpret that line. I think neither of them really hold up. And I'll give you just a couple examples of it. First of all, I mean, obviously, if you think about like a total beginner who plays a Les Paul custom into a Marshall Plexi, is he going to make it sound like Eric Clapton in Cream? No, obviously not. However, that gear is able to produce that tone if it's manipulated correctly. That person just doesn't have the skilled hands to reveal it. The other way, again, kind of saying like, well, it's no, you're always going to sound like you. Well, by that rationale, every guitar player would always sound exactly the same, and they don't. Eric Clapton sounded different in Cream than he did in the 70s, than he did in the 80s, than he did in the 90s. You can always tell it's him based on his playing, but it sounded different. If you listen to Clapton playing Crossroads with Cream in the 60s versus when he played it in the 2005 reunion, the tones are very different. Yeah, it's still him, but the tones are different. And I don't like it because I think it diminishes people's search for good tone and the impact that good tone, or even just like variety of tone or what character of tone, has on music. Somebody had mentioned, like, well, Steve Lukather and Eddie Van Halen could plug into each other's rigs and still sound exactly like them. Well, yeah, their rigs are remarkably similar. I'd be much more impressed if Steve Lukather could magically sound like him if he were playing into Mark Knopfler's clean rig, or B.B. King's rig, may he rest in peace. Something like that that's wildly different. And, again, like B.B. King sounds very, very different. Sometimes he played into a cranked amp, sometimes he played totally clean, sometimes he, in the old vintage days, played into different kinds of things. Yeah, it's always B.B., but the tones were different. So I think it's just saying tone is in your fingers. Yeah, the intention might be good. It might be good kind of getting people to think about practicing more and trying to get really good rather than obsessing about whatever piece of gear you might want to buy. But the gear that you want to buy also makes a difference in your creative expression. And having the right rig also can make you play better when you're inspired by